and I'll do it from there. All right?
Yep.
That was a good start. I choked. Hi guys, welcome back to the next episode of Don't Fear the Weight podcast with me, your tiny titan host. As always, Vicky Masita. I never change, absolutely never change, and you know that. And if you wanted me to change, well, tough shit, because it doesn't happen. However, I do have a guest with me today who I'm very, very excited to have a little bit of a chops and a chat with because she's a very, very beautiful friend and she's also one of my clients. I'm very proud to be my client. So, well, at least I hope she is anyway. I'm proud to be her coach, so I'll put it that way. Chloe Brennan. Chloe, how are you, my love?
I am great. All the better for seeing you.
Of course. Obviously, we know this. I kind of figured out that we've got the same haircut today. We've just got that nice swoop going over there.
It's soaking. I've just got out the shower after my session, so.
That's fair enough. How are things going? Obviously, I know that things are a little bit kind of like haywire in the NHS at the moment. How are you managing?
Up and down, mixed. So this week just gone was okay, and I've had 4 days off, so I was looking forward to that week, which I think kind of helps the way through. But the week before that was just terrible, and I couldn't really cope and was all over the place. But I guess that's all part of it, and everyone's going through the same thing, so it's just finding the good in things and looking for the silver linings.
Exactly. Always trying to find the positives in the days, isn't it? It's very, very difficult when you're not used to being on a ward. Obviously, I can sympathise because we're doing the same thing, aren't we, being redeployed? But anywho, we haven't actually come on to talk about the dips and the drones of COVID-19 because I think everybody bloody knows about it and we don't really want to carry on going on about it. But for people who don't know who you are, why don't you just give us a little bit of a rundown about who you are, where you've come from, and why you're so awesome?
I'm rubbish at these things. I'm Chloe, obviously. I guess, well, I do Strongwoman, so if you don't know what that is, it's not where I stand on stage in a bikini. It's like World's Strongest Man on the telly, but female. So I compete as a lightweight. So in Strongwoman, there's lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight. Heavyweight is over 82, middleweight's under 82 kilo, and then lightweight's under 63 kilo. And at the moment, I am 3 times Midland's Strongest Woman, England's Strongest Woman, and then I came back from the Arnold last month where I placed 4th. So that's me.
Which is pretty awesome, personally speaking. So in terms of getting into Strongwoman then, what made you decide to do Strongwoman as opposed to anything like powerlifting or bodybuilding?
To be fair, I'd never really considered going into strength sports. It wasn't anything that I planned. I've always been active and sporty as a kid. I did athletics, football, trampolining. I did for quite a long time to a respectable level. So I reached like the lower end of British level at that. And then Matt, my partner, was into the gym, and he was like, "Oh, Chloe, come on, come to the gym." And I was like, "No," because I've always been quite broad. And I was like, well, I don't want to get any broader by lifting weights, and I've got bad knees, so I don't want to do any cardio. And then he started doing this all-round weightlifting thing. It's quite a small federation, but they do all sorts like one-handed snatches, Steinborns, as well as like powerlifting things. And I ended up giving that a go. And when I did that, I was like, oh, I'd quite like to do powerlifting, and that was my plan to go off that way. And then Matt did a strongman comp. I ended up getting dragged into it because there were a man down on the deadlift. And then I got told to come to a strongman gym, and I was like, okay. And then I never escaped, really. So I fell into it completely by accident, but I'm really, really glad I did. And then I've been curious about bodybuilding, but I think for me personally, it just wouldn't end well. I'm concentrating on what my body can do. And I think if I started to, I've got quite an obsessive personality. Like if I've got a goal, I'm very much, well, I'm going to do it. And I think that might get a bit dangerous if I did it with the way I look. So that's why I've stuck to the kind of lifty side of strength sports.
The performance element.
Yeah,
I totally agree as well. It's which is funny because obviously I'm a hybrid, so I do powerlifting and bodybuilding, so I can't totally agree with that. But in terms of like the obsessiveness that you can unfortunately just find yourself falling into, especially with bodybuilding, it can create a terrible aversion with food. So we were going to talk about the nutritional elements of your strength sport, because again, it is very, very different of how we would program a nutritional approach to somebody who does need something for aesthetics, for example, because we need you to perform optimally, but we also needed you to make weight. So what was it about your nutrition that you found difficult to get down before the Arnolds, and why did you come to me?
So when I first came into Strongman and needed to make weight, I worked with a nutritionist then. He was brilliant, excellent, made weight quite easily. And then he'd kind of shown me how to do macros, and I'd just done it myself for a few years. And it had worked, and I'd be working my calories up to like 2,800, 3,000, maintenance and being fine, and then just dropping a little bit. And then this year it just wasn't working for me. I think I'd been out of training properly with injury for a while, so that probably had a bit of an impact. And I was trying all the things that I normally do to get down, and I just couldn't. And me myself didn't want to drop my calories any lower because I like food too much. So I think I just needed a bit more accountability. And also, I compete naturally in my sport. It's not a tested sport, so I knew really I need to up my game with my nutrition to get every edge that I can. Like, I'm very on it with my recovery, my foam rolling, my sports therapy, and I just knew I needed something to help me notch my performance up a bit, which is when you came in.
See, when I came in, and then what? So in terms, well, let's have a look at this then. So, I mean, I don't want to make it all about me, but I want you to realistically kind of give a rundown of what you were doing with your nutrition, as in performance related wise, previously. So how were you fueling your performance? Did you really kind of like give a damn about what you ate around your training window, around your recovery window, that kind of thing?
So I didn't really know much about it, and this is when I'm talking to people I know in Strongman, this is where I really big you up and say that you've helped me out the most. I was doing my macros, but it was literally just to make weight, maintain weight, or gain weight. I didn't really understand about performance. Like, I knew carbs fuel you and things, but I didn't know how much, when, before, after, those kinds of things. So I literally was just eating to make weight. And the things I was eating was just if it fits your macros. So I wasn't putting much thought into exactly what I was eating. And I think that's one of the biggest changes since working with you, that I eat a lot more fruit and veg. And then the timings of my food and how much of everything I need to eat before and after. Even like more than that as well on comp day. Because before I would just wing it completely. And now, like when I went to the Arnold, you gave me such a specific plan of what I needed to eat, when I needed to eat it, and you were asking how do I feel, and then adjusting in accordance to that. And that is just something that I've never had before, and obviously paid off because of the result that I had. So
it was a wicked comp as well. I was proper watching. I was like, oh my god, I wanted you to really do this. Yeah. It was a bit of a crazy day, wasn't it? And I think the thing that I really enjoyed the most about being by your side, obviously on the other side of the world, was that you kept on updating me, even at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and saying, do you know what, I feel really, really good. And all of the other girls I feel really bad for, because they're taking their scales into the sauna and trying to drop weight by sweating it out at 4 in the morning, day of the comp. And it was like, oh sorry, it was the day before of the comp. Day before, and I was like, holy shit. And you were just like, yeah, I've just weighed in and I'm this pre-poop, so I'm gonna go back to sleep. but that is what I really enjoyed about it, because it was obviously hearing you be so confident and laid back, and we didn't realistically drop your calories that much. Teeny tiny amount, and now obviously we've started to increase them a little bit more. Yay, happy days. So you did have a little bit of a sad though when I'm like, no, we're not going to increase them at this point, not today, not this week. So you did have a little bit of a sad, but there is obviously a very good reason for it. So what do you think has actually happened in terms, I know we weren't talking realistically in terms of aesthetics, but have you noticed that your body has changed since manipulating the macronutrient intake that you have?
yes, I think I don't really pay that much attention to it in terms of progress photos. It's not something I used to do them when I very first started cutting weight, and then I got very obsessive, so I just stopped. But recently, I've kind of, when I've been training and I've caught myself in the conservatory window, I'm like, oh, that's popping out a bit more, and I feel like my legs are leaning out, which is something that has never happened. I'm feeling a bit bigger on top, which I like. So yeah, not masses different that I'm like, oh, but little changes are slowly happening, and I have actually started taking some progress photos just because I'm so curious and I like the way I look. So.
And you want to learn how to pose?
Yeah, I'm trying my best, but I'm not quite there yet.
I think they're great. You know, the little selfies that are dead close up like us. I think they're perfect. Funny. Okay, cool. So, right, well, let's have a little bit of a rundown about your training then, because obviously I don't want to make it about me. I want to make it about you at the end of the day. So it's just an all-round basis of the fact that you understand now that nutrition is vitally important for your sport, especially if you want to get to the higher level of your sport. And that's realistically what I wanted to get across in this podcast, that some people don't acknowledge the fact that nutrient timing does really bloody matter in sports performance. It may not matter as much to a general population client who just wants to drop a few pounds and look good naked. But in terms of sports performance and really upping your game, then it really does pay off, you know, and you are a prime example of that, you know, doing the Arnolds the way that you did, and obviously coming back with the championship titles that you did, which is quite cool. But in terms of your training then, I know that you said that you just kind of fell into Strongwoman, which is obviously amazing. But what is it that kind of kept you going for it? Because when you were, it just interests me, because when you were talking about it, you didn't really seem enthusiastic and happy about the fact that you are England's strongest woman. And it's like, so it's like really, it's really great, but you don't seem to come across like that. So what makes you keep on going back to do the lifty?
I do love it, and I am very enthusiastic. I think I'm just, I'm not a very, I get not embarrassed, but like when people ask me what I do and like if I've got any titles, I'm like, I'm just not one of those people that's like, I'm fabulous. I find that very, very difficult. And I don't know why. It's a bit. Have you heard of imposter syndrome?
Oh, completely, yeah.
Yeah, I think I get that quite a bit in that I know I've won England's strongest woman, but I still don't think I am England's strongest woman. But I think that is actually what keeps me going, in that, yeah, I did quite well, but I can do better. And it's that knowing that I can do better and I can be stronger, and all these people that I haven't competed against yet. And I'm one of these, like, to be the best, I need to beat the best.
Yeah.
Not just win on the day. So yeah, that's what keeps me going, that I know I've got so much more in me, and really, hopefully, this is only the start, especially considering that I've only just kind of over the last, 2 months started with my nutrition. If that's only if I've done that in that amount of time, then what can I do in a year's time when I've been eating right and fueling myself properly for a year? And I think, I know we weren't going to talk about COVID, but that this time away from the gym has shown me how much I use lifting as an outlet and a coping mechanism for all of the feely feels. I think I'm usually a very happy, bubbly, go get it person, but when the gym was taken away, I was like, oh. And I didn't realise how much of a role it actually played in keeping me. So that's another reason that I am so kind of driven to carry on and keep doing it, because I know how important it is it's part of my identity, really. It's just what I do and what I love. And I also love seeing new people come into the sport. So I have a lot of girls either message me or locally come to the gym, and guys as well that have started at our gym that kind of were a bit quiet when they came, and just been able to see them progress and them get stronger gives me as much joy as getting stronger myself as well. So there's just so many different elements to it that I love, and that makes me want to keep going back and battering myself.
That's it, isn't it? What's your have you got like a favorite lift that you like practicing in terms of Strongwoman?
Whenever I do like my questions on my stories, I always get asked this, and I give a different answer every time. I think I can give a selection. So it used to be deadlift. I used to absolutely love deadlifting. But now I think moving events are like farmers and yoke I absolutely love. I love stones just because it looks cool.
Yeah.
And circus dumbbells, but overhead's never been a biggie for me, really. I've always been a bit poop at it. But once that clicked, it took me like a year to get an empty dumbbell. But then once it's clicked, I really like the feel of it, and it looks really, some of them just looks cool.
Yeah, it does.
They're my favourites, I would say, at the moment, but it could change tomorrow.
Yeah, you never know. See, I was thinking that you were going to say the stones because we were having a chat. We're going to have a session once all of this lockdown's gone over, and you were like, "Yeah, I'm going to get you to do the stones." I'm like, "Are you serious? That's not going to happen with me."
I love stones, but they hurt, and they give you like marks all up your arms.
That's it. I did see a really good tip. If you cut off a pair of jeans, like stretchy jeggings or whatever, put those over your forearms, and they act really well for stones, apparently.
I've got some stone sleeves that are really good, but sometimes I just like to be able to grip the stone rather than it feels, I can't explain it really, but it feels very different.
Yeah. I'm a bit scared about the stones, if I have to say. I really am.
You'll be great. You can't say you've done Strongman unless you've done stones.
Well, yeah, exactly. It is. We'll think about that one. Anyway, right, okay. So we did ask some people to get onto some questions in terms of what we've got. So I'm going to start with the first question because it's a lifty question, and it is specifically for you, and we like lifty questions. So first off, how many men can you outlift in your gym? That's a proper ego-driven question.
I don't know, actually. When the guys started, I could outlift a lot of them. Now they're all getting quite strong. I don't know. I think my deadlift is quite close to some of them, and my overhead, but they push press it and I jerk it. So, I don't really pay attention to it, to be honest. I'll always use the pound for pound thing. So pound for pound, I'm stronger than most people in the gym, which is nice.
It's always like that.
But that, it's one of them. I think our gym is great and everyone's just getting stronger and stronger all the time. So I don't think I'm that much stronger than many of the guys now because they're all overtaking me.
No need for a sad face. They're a guy. They're like fueled with testosterone. They have things that we don't, unfortunately. Yeah. And they're heavier. So I take it then, I'll just kind of like do a bit of an off tangent on that one. I take it then that realistically, you're not ego driven to carry on going through this sport. So even though you say that you want to better yourself, it's not down to driving your ego, is it?
No, I think it's just about finding out what I can do. Yes, it's nice. I'm very competitive. So of course I like to beat people, but I only want to beat people that are like really strong and really good, and to do that I need to beat what I've already done. I think it just fascinates me what the body can do, really, and that's what drives me to get stronger more than any egotistical kind of drive.
For sure.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what, because realistically, outside strong woman, no one gives a shit. No one knows what 200 kilos is. No one knows who anyone is. So I think that there's literally no point having an ego because no one cares.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're not doing it for yourself, then it's completely, well, for me, it would be pointless.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think the ego can be quite dangerous in this sport?
Yes. I think you need confidence in your own ability, but I think egos can get in the way big time. I mean, it's quite a close-knit sport and everybody knows everybody, so if your ego gets too big, then people are going to start talking, and I think it just results in you putting too much pressure on yourself if you keep saying how great you are. There's not many people like that, to be fair, but I think if you were to get to that point where you felt like you were so great and you put that much amount of pressure on yourself, imagine if you then failed at what you said you were going to do. Like, you're just crashing down. So,
and I suppose ego can really drive injury as well.
Yeah, massively ego lifting. And we're all guilty of that. I do that all the time. Like when I came back from the Arnold, I was like, yeah, I'm going to lift really heavy and ride the peak, and but actually this peak was very different because it wasn't a very heavy comp. Yeah. And I was expecting to lift massive weights, and it's not going to happen. So, but I after a day or so, I was like, okay, I could reflect on that and be like, well, that wasn't going to happen. But I think if I would have been more egotistical about it, I just would have got worked up and kept doing it and kept doing it. And like you say, could have caused myself an injury, which would have got me nowhere. So.
Absolutely. And you've already got a glass back as well, haven't you?
Well, yeah.
Well, yes, you are. I saw a video. So you actually injured yourself on the way to the Arnold's as well, didn't you? Which wasn't that great. So we had to tailor back your nutrition a hell of a lot just to kind of rehabilitate you and get you through that, which was really beneficial at the time. I'm so glad that you did it then and not like the week of, because if it was the week of, I would have been like, crap. But yeah, that happened. And then you did something again in your conservatory, didn't you? Because you're lifting in your conservatory at the minute.
Yeah, it was just with the sandbag, I just picked it up slightly off and my back went, but I knew what to do this time. So I just kept moving and stretching, and I was back lifting the next day. So, which
is good.
Yeah, better than last time.
Yeah, you sent it to the Strong group and all of them were like, oh my God, that hurt. Oh, that looks terrible. And I'm like, you dickhead.
Yeah, you knew it was okay.
Yeah. Well, I just don't want you to hurt yourself. So, I'm going to be open and honest.
I only really sent it for comedy value anyway, so you got it.
Exactly. It's one of those. Right. Okay. So have you got any questions that you want to kind of like bring over? We'll do one each.
Yep. So one person, I've got a couple actually that are good ones. One is how to balance carb intake when trying to lose weight, but also have enough energy to lift heavy.
Oh, that's a very good question. The thing is, right, it depends on this is like the really horrid question that you have to answer it by saying it depends. Because everybody's carbohydrate intake is going to be different. It depends on what they're going to be doing on the day. It depends on what kind of lifting they're going to be doing. So say like an events day, for example, is going to be very, very different to a 1 rep max deadlift day. You are going to utilize carbohydrates in a very, very different manner. For the 1 rep maxes that you are going to be doing, you do not actually need or warrant a lot of carbohydrates because we don't use, it's not a glycolytic system that you're going to be using in a 1 rep max. It's going to be used by quick fire power, which is your ATP system or your creatine phosphate system. And that doesn't utilize carbohydrates because it's only actually deriving energy for between 4 and 10 seconds, which is exactly what you want for that massive deadlift. So again, in terms of balancing carbohydrates in order to lose weight or make weight while still lifting heavy, you can do both very easily. But again, it depends on your tolerance to the amount of carbs that you have. For example, I can tolerate about 500 grams of carbs a day on a training day, and I'm a teeny tiny person, but I utilize carbs in a very different way as opposed to somebody like yourself, Chloe, who tolerates 300 grams of carbs, but you can also tolerate a lot more fat. Your training is a hell of a lot different to mine, so it does realistically depend on what you want to do. Yes, carbohydrates they're not the devil, by the way. Carbohydrates are not the devil. They will not make you get fat. It's an overabundance of caloric intake that makes you get fat, not carbohydrates on its own. If you want to make weight and still derive energy for your heavy lifts, then you can actually turn that scale on its head and then basically drop water weight with still being in a caloric surplus. But again, it depends on how far out from competition you are. I would always suggest you not trying to make weight in a lead up to a competition, as in like in the last kind of 2 weeks, unless you're going to do that via water manipulation. Because then you can keep your carbohydrates high in order to fuel that energy source. If you're going to be doing events like practicing the stones, practicing yoked runs and farmers and things like that, that is going to require quite a good abundance of carbohydrates for the glycogen that's going to be needed for your runs. But again, I think that person who gave that question in has got a little bit of a fear when it comes to carbohydrate, just because of the way that they've said it. So that would be something else I'd like to kind of explore realistically, why you think that it would have to be carbohydrate that you get rid of in order to make weight, when realistically that would be the last thing that I would like to touch, because you need to be able to perform. And I've said it on a number of occasions, including to you when we first had a conversation, was it's all very well and good making weight, But if you can make weight, but you can't lift for shit, what's the point?
Yeah.
So that's realistically something that you've got to consider. So I'm sorry, it's not just a straight black and white answer about saying how many carbs do you need. It is totally person dependent. Some people can have 600 grams of carbs and still make weight very, very easily. But then other people will need to go down to like 90 grams of carbs and still do a water manipulation. It depends on whether or not you have something internal that's going on. So say, for example, polycystic ovary syndrome, those people cannot have a lot of carbohydrates, and we have to manipulate a lot of different substrates in order to give you energy from a different source. So there's a lot more things to consider than just how many grams of carbohydrate you can have and still make weight.
I think that thing you said about people demonizing carbs as well happens so much. Like when in the lead up to the Strongman camp, so many people are like, oh, well, I need to drop my carbs, or I'm on 0 carbs. And so many people do it, and I think it's a massive myth that kind of needs busting, because especially in our sport, like you cannot train and cannot perform optimally. Yeah. if you're not fueled properly, and that fuel is going to come from your carbohydrates. So.
It is, yeah. And there's a big thing about it. And I mean, even when I help powerlifters make weight in the lead up to their comp, most of my powerlifters only stay about 5 to 10% over their competing weight. So it's very, very easy to get down. We'll probably drop 1 kilo to 2 kilos within a 4-week period, and then drop any remaining weight that we need to via a water manipulation. But their carbohydrates are still well over 150 to 200 on average. This is what I'm saying, on average. But I don't want anybody kind of demonizing carbs. And plus, carbs are yummy as fuck. Nothing. Well, so's fat, though, to be fair. Fat's yummy as hell. It is, all of the food is nice. And I don't know if you guys know this, but me and Chloe are massive foodies. So we like food. And there's no way that we would prefer to kind of eat lettuce and cheese every day, all day, and then expect to do heavy lifties. So don't demonize carbs. Don't demonize sugar. It's not going to make you fat. It's not going to give you any kind of health problems whatsoever. Obviously, if you eat a whole load of carbohydrates and sugar and sit on your ass all day and don't do anything, then yeah, possibly it might have some kind of impact. But if you stay within a caloric amount that is suited for your body and your body alone, then you're probably still not going to get over fat. Your body composition is probably going to change if you don't use your body to what it's designed to do. But yeah, it is very, very individual, and is very personalized. Anybody who just kind of gives you a cookie cutter workout or a cookie cutter nutrition program, you should just tell them to piss right off, because it's wrong, and they should not do it, because nutrition is personal, because you are an individual, so you need to be treated as one. Did I answer that right? I think so. Okay, so next question then. What is it for you? So how old were you when you got into fitness personally? I think you answered that earlier by saying you've been active all your life.
Yeah, been active, but gym fitness probably started when I was 20-ish.
Okay.
So I'm 24 now, so not a long time really, and then taking it seriously for like 2 years maybe.
Yeah.
So I was quite young, but I haven't been doing it that long in comparison to a lot of people. So.
Yeah, for sure. You're only 24. Why did I not know that? You're a young whippersnapper. God, I'm so old. I am so old. Right, okay, so you've already answered that one, so I'll get another question out then. What is your favorite snack at the moment?
Oh, no.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of bacon and egg bagels.
That is nice.
Yeah, what else am I liking? Either oats or yogurt with the custard cream whey mixed in.
Because it's the best one.
Yeah, with jam and grenade spread.
Nice.
That always hits the spot. And then on my days where I'm not tracking, obviously cheesecake or cake.
Those are the days that we don't track. We have cheesecake. Brilliant. So
Yeah.
Chloe has trackable macros and she has trackable calories as well. But one day of the week, I do say, I don't want you to track anything. And the reason why I do that is because we're not trying to make weight for anything at the moment. So we don't have to be massively 110% bang on all the time. But that one day off track does give Chloe a little bit of a mental break. Because mentally looking at your phone all the time and just trying to log bloody everything, and sometimes it can get pissing boring, right?
Yeah.
How have you found that getting into tracking your macros again, and obviously having that one day? Do you think that that's helped you quite a lot in terms of mentality, or do you get any kind of anxiety when you're not tracking or anything like that?
I think I haven't found it that difficult to track because that's something I've done for quite a while anyway. I remember when I started and I was like, it's really overwhelming, but it's just part of my day now. But not tracking, I love it. I just get to relax and eat well, and I'm not stupid with it because I know that that's just going to be counterproductive. And I think that's a big thing that you have to learn. And if you can't control it, and if you are going to binge, then you can't really do it. You've got a goal in mind. I've never really been a big binger. I might have a lot after a competition, but that's just, one off every now and then. I used to get quite anxious when I didn't track, mainly because I thought I wasn't eating enough.
Yeah.
Rather than eating too much, especially with my protein and things. But I think because I've been doing it for so long now, I kind of know what I need and can do it without getting worried or being anxious, and just enjoy food because, well, yes, food is to fuel us, but it's also something that we enjoy, and it allows us, not at the moment, but it's something to do with family and friends and going out. And if you're not going to do all those things, I think it goes back to that obsessiveness and that all-consuming thing. Like when I was prepping for the Arnold, we went out for a meal, and I was only a couple of weeks out then, so I sat there with a 10-cal jelly while everyone was eating burgers, and it's not fun. So when I'm in off season, I do really enjoy those days where I can just go, you know what, I can go out for a meal and I can relax and I can enjoy it. So
yeah, and it's very, very beneficial. I'm so glad that you can do that and just kind of have that relaxation and just chill a little bit when it comes to your food, because so many people out there can't. And it is important, like you said, you need to know when you are at that level and at that point where you can do that, because if you just kind of go straight into it and just not track for an entire day, you're either going to run the risk of complete restriction or overeat and eat like an arsehole. So, and then you feel crap the next day and then everything else goes wrong. So there are ways and means of how we manipulate this. This is one of the questions that we got over here actually, and that was to how to kind of like move away from tracking, and how and why and when. But that's one of the tips that I would give you. Need to do it when you know that you're ready, and don't just have a full day off. Maybe just having small snacks first of all, just like a little bit here and there where you're not going to track, is going to be quite good in order to have that little bit of a wayward, dipping your toe in the water rather than like diving off the diving board, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. Okay, so I think we've got time for one more question if you've got another one, babe.
Yeah, I had a good one actually. Where is it?
Yeah.
There's one I really liked. Is there any key differences for female nutrition when it comes to lifting?
Oh, that is a good one, actually. Again, it depends. It depends on, okay, so let's just take a little bit of an example. So when it comes to females have got hormones, and we've got lots and lots and lots and lots of different hormones, even more hormones that are being rediscovered or discovered, should I say, every single day. And it's just like, fuck, there's another one. Brilliant. Whereas men don't, men do not have these hormonal fluxes. They have one hormone and one cycle, and it's an entire life cycle of being an arsehole. That's what basically we determine is men hormones. But female hormones, we have a cycle that goes over what I'm going to use in the literature, 28 days. Nobody has a 28-day cycle, and they are like a mythical, magical unicorn. If somebody says to me that their monthly cycle is 28 days, it doesn't happen like that. When it comes to nutrition, most of the time there would not be any kind of differences for a female athlete as opposed to a male athlete. The only difference that they need is their energy availability. Women need more calories in order to have that energy availability for normal everyday function. So a normal everyday functioning male should have about 30 calories per kilo in order to have optimal function. And that's not even talking about training functionality. This is just everyday optimal functioning. A female should realistically have between 33 and 35 calories. 30% of their calories should derive from fats, because fats are very good and beneficial in terms of hormonal responses, but some females can't tolerate fats, so we have to look at it that way. When it does come to their progesterone spike, which is around about, again for the literature, 21 days in their cycle, that's the time when you start to get all of those kind of period symptoms. So you start to get the bloating, the water retention, the acne, the feelings that you want to kick the dog and divorce your husband, because everything's pissing you off. On those parts, that's when you're going to need and derive more energy. So what I would normally do is just actually decrease protein just a little bit and increase carbohydrates and fats to give them just a little bit more caloric intake, to give them room for those cravings that they need and that they want to give into, because there's nothing worse than saying, right, you're on a caloric allowance and you can't have that. And I don't give a shit about your cravings, because you can't have that. Because that's like telling a child not to push a button.
Yeah.
They're basically going to say, whatever, and I'm going to smash it, and that's what will happen. So that's the only difference that I would do for females as opposed to male nutrition, is that they would have an undulating approach when it comes to a monthly cycle. So for 3 weeks out of the 4, it would be the same intake, but then for that 1 week where you have that hormonal spike, that's where it would be different. And again, that's not the same for everybody. It does come down to cravings, symptomology, how you feel in terms of your lifting, because some women just can't lift at all. They just lose their strength when it comes to the week before their period. And then, of course, energy availability. So realistically, women do not need or can't warrant a lot more calories as opposed to men, because we are smaller human beings. So unfortunately, we have to have a smaller caloric intake. But yeah, again, it is very individualized. So there is no, it's like telling a woman, should you lift differently than a man? Well, realistically, not that much. No, you really shouldn't. Again, it just comes down to the amount of weight lifted. Women can tolerate more volume than men can. But in terms of food, nutrition is nutrition. Your body sees everything the same way, but there will have to be certain manipulations put in place. Supplementation, I would probably be doing a little bit differently to women than I would do to men. But in terms of nutrition wise, no, not really that much difference. All right, apart from obviously like giving you more cake because you like cake. I think I've got to be a bit more softer with women sometimes, until I get that relationship with them where I can say, no, you can't have cake.
Yeah, I think it depends. I don't respond well to soft. I just think,
no,
it's a bit boring.
It is.
I just need to be told what to do.
Exactly. So, but I mean, there's so many different approaches, isn't it? It's like, if I just kind of went, oh, there, Chloe, don't worry about it, and this, that, and the other, you'd be like, no, I'm not going to respond to that. Fuck you, Vic. I'm going to have another piece of cake. Whereas if I say, no, you're not having any more calories this week because of X, Y, and Z, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to have a sad and I'm going to throw a paddy, but then I'm going to get over it, and then it'll be fine because maybe next week it'll go over. So
I think that's something with your nursing background as well, actually, that makes you sort of a good coach. And that I always say, I'm a nurse as well, and I always say a massive part of our job is just being actors and adapting to different people. And I think that's something that you obviously do very well. It didn't take you very long to grasp how I work and how my brain functions. And I know now you work with some of my friends and competitors as well, and they've said the same thing, that you just get them and get on board, which is a massive help, I think, when you're, because nutrition's hard, like, especially if you're new to it, like, it's so different to get used to, and having someone that understands is is massive. So.
Nutrition is hard. It's very difficult. Training's easy. You pick stuff up and put it back down again.
Yeah, and it's fun.
Yeah, and it's fun.
It isn't fun.
Nutrition is not fun. It's not fun. When you have got to be given those guidelines and that red tape, it is not fun at all. I mean, how many women did you share a flat with at the Arnold, and they were just like eating white fish and fucking spinach? I could not do it. I couldn't do it to anybody. I could not do it to anybody. If anybody said to me, I'm having white fish and broccoli, I'd be like, shove that shit in the bin. You ain't doing that. You know, I don't care what your calories are. You're not doing white fish and broccoli. It's just rude.
Not very nice.
No, it's horrible. But yeah, there are ways and means of going about it. And nutrition is very difficult. And it is one of the hardest things that anybody can put themselves through, especially as a higher elite caliber athlete. And that's the reason why I think that you need to have that kind of support and accountability, because it is very difficult, especially if you do become obsessed in certain ways, which is the reason why for you, it is a very good idea to have that day off tracking. But again, not for everybody. Okay, so I think that'll do us for this segment of the podcast, realistically. So is there anything that you can advise to anybody wanting to get into Strongman before we leave? What is your parting words of wisdom?
We're all very approachable in Strongwoman, or Strongman. So if you're thinking about it and don't know where to start, message one of us if you know who we are. And also, if you have a gym locally to you that you know who's got kits, just contact them and get yourself down there. It feels very uncomfortable at first because everyone looks like big, massive, bearded, scary men. But everyone's actually very kind and very willing to help. So just dive in, feet first, and get stuck in. And I don't think you'll regret it.
Amazing. I love it. Right. So what I will do is, if you want to follow Chloe, just have a look at the Instagram handle that I will put underneath the podcast shizzle as per usual. And as she said, if you've got any other questions for us guys, then just send them across and we will be happy to answer them as soon as we possibly can. But until the next time, thank you again for tuning in to Don't Fear the Weight. Give us a big like and a share on all of the grams, and you might win a t-shirt. You may not. But yeah, thanks again for your time, Chloe. I will catch up with you very, very soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.